It's difficult with Chris because he died. And, you know, I didn't want, I hate the idea of him being thought of as just, who he was in that last moment. And, oh, this tragic figure. He wasn't a tragic figure. He was a tragic figure for about a month before he did what he did, and then forever after. But prior to that, there was absolutely nothing tragic about Chris. He was a really funny, vibrant, hilarious, warm person. So I wanted to get, you know, some of that into the book, who he was, but without deifying him because he's died as this sort of, oh, look at this saintly person who we've lost. I was trying to make sure that you got the silliness of him and some of the moodiness of him and how we navigated our way through the band. And the same goes with Emma. You want to get some sense of who that person is. What is it that's actually funny about them? Now, obviously, I had to tread quite carefully in both of those instances because I don't want to upset Chris's family. I don't want to upset Emma unduly. It was just trying to get across my relationship with those people and how they figured in my life. So, and a lot of the book is like that. It's more about, yes, there's events in there. Yes, of course, it's pinned to things that happened, but it's so much more about how it felt at the time, right? And, what kind of emotions were going on, what kind of conflicts, what kind of friendships, what kind of fun, what kind of, you know, difficulties, none of which would have been obvious from the outside, right? And whatever you think, you may see an interview or you may have heard about us going on whatever tour. That's not what that book is about. It will mention that we went on that tour, but there will be stuff in there that is incredibly private to me, or was until I wrote this bloody book. But the point is that I do my best to try and make the teenage Emma, the 20s, Chris Ackland, sort of um, come across as a fully rounded human being.
Hmm. So I was going to ask you how much you saw signs ahead of time, but you're saying it was only a month. I mean, in your best estimation, what is it that could drive someone to that extreme in such a short window who didn't have, because people's assumption now is, oh, someone must have a predisposition towards depression or suicidal ideation. And you're saying that's not the case. So, I mean, why was that month so impactful?
Um, I mean, to be honest with you, I have sat around, you know, certainly after Chris died, I must have spent 5 years sitting around with people talking endlessly about the possibles and the whys and the wherefores. And there are, several different strands. You could argue that, I remember going to Chris's funeral and they were like, oh, there is sort of, there have been suicides in the family before and there was depression on blah, blah side. But you think, okay, you're talking about some great uncle, right? Your family's fucking massive. I'm not being funny, but there's like shitloads of cousins and brothers and sisters. Like, I just don't really buy it. There's the fact that he was turning 30, oh, well, that's the kind of, really difficult age for men and blah, blah, blah. I get that. And I do think there's some truth to, Chris feeling like, he joined this band in his, he's 21 or whatever. We were at college and you get to 30 and you're starting to think, well, this is people are settling down. People have got mortgages. People, maybe I made the wrong choice. Maybe I should have gone back to the Lake District and worked at my dad's, paper mill or something, and I'd be in a more secure position. But, we all go through that shit. Do you know what I mean? I think that these are all, none of it adds up to enough, right? There's no one thing. Yes, all right, your girlfriend dumped you, whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you were going out for like 10 fucking years. Do you know what I mean? You've been going out for what? Less than a year. You were away for most of that. I mean, the band, the exhaustion. I mean, that Britpop era, a lot more drugs around. That didn't fucking help. I can tell you that. Um, you know, there's there's so many things that each one of which you can sort of go, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be the other. But none of them really add up to that because I've known people, including myself, who have gone through all of those little bits of shrapnel that stick in you. And not for a second, you know, would I have seriously considered doing something like that. And it literally was so out of the blue. I mean, I can actually remember Tim Freeze-Green, the guy who produced Sweetness and Light, because I had to let everyone know before it got into the fucking press. And I was leaving messages everywhere and I was telling people, you have to call me back, you have to call me back. And Tim, I remember Tim leaving a message on my aunt's phone. He said, like, well, clearly someone's died. It's not you. And he told me afterwards, he said, like, Chris was literally the last person I thought I actually thought there's no way it's Chris, right? So I don't know what's happened to either Emma or Phil, right? But it's definitely not Chris. And that's how everybody felt. Everyone could not believe it, right? And I do actually, it sounds sort of almost ridiculous to say, it sounds like you're making it up. But I do say to people, think of the last person on earth, right? Think of one of your friends and think, who's the one who you would say definitely won't do that? Well, that's what it was like.